Thank you for joining me. This is Kati Whitledge with a Beyond at the Technique podcast. I'm super excited to be with you today. This is one of my favorite topics ever, the DISC personality profiles. I'm going to explain it all. And some of you may not know that our software company, Maya, which powers this podcast platform, one of the proprietary aspects is that our matchmaker has DISC personality profiling built into the tool. How cool is that? I was introduced to this so many years ago and I was just into it. And you might be into it too. You might be into all of those things like Enneagrams, just identifying like which animal are you? If you ever have gotten into understanding different people and what makes them tick, you're going to love today's conversation. And by the way, yes, I am wearing clothes. So if you're watching today, it may not look like it, but I got a tank top on. So we're good. We're this is a clean, actually it's not clean. This podcast is explicit. Just because you never know what people might say. Let's dive into the disc, you guys. By the way, if you're a salon owner, a spa owner, or in leadership at your business, this is so important because it helps you really understand people, the way they communicate. I feel strongly that understanding this will help you even hire and recruit the right types of personalities for the right positions. And it shows you as a leader just how different you need to treat each individual because not everybody beats at the same drum pace. Okay. Everybody moves at a different cadence. And truly, different disc personalities have different speeds to which they work, they communicate, all of that. So DISC is DISC. And by the way, not everybody is just one aspect of DISC. You're going to all be a really unique combination, but you're going to be a heavy hitter probably in one area. So as I go through these, you're going to be like, that is predominantly me. And that is just so fun to find out anyways. So let's break down each personality, how they communicate, their strengths, their weaknesses, what kind of role in the real world do they usually play. This will help you recognize them instantly. And by the way, when I get into any room, this might be a secret superpower, but after meeting somebody or even on a phone call conversation, I can typically identify their disc within that first 5 minutes of connecting with somebody and like actually connecting with them. I can, boom, you are probably this or this. So I just love it. I hope you love it too. Let's get into this. Okay. So D on the disc stands for dominance. This is somebody who is results driven, typically task oriented more than people oriented. I's are influence driven. They're people on the side before task. They're people driven before they're task driven. S's are steady. That stands for steadiness, and they are stability driven. And then you have your C's who are conscientious. They're very detail driven. So no type is better than the other. Even if you're a D, the D's in the room think they're the best. We're going to hear why, but you're not. There's something for everybody that's really special. And it is very cool to know and understand and identify everybody's disc because then you can meet each person where they're at and you become a more empowered and equipped leader yourself by knowing this. So D's, the dominants, the drivers, they have to be in charge. They're direct, they're fast, and they get to the point quickly. They're focused on results, not feelings. Not first and foremost, that is. Now, remember, just because if you're a D, doesn't mean you don't have feelings. It just means that you got to remind yourself to have feelings sometimes. They prefer efficiency over conversation. Let's get after it. What are we talking about here? What's the point of this conversation? Sometimes they think like that. Their strengths are that they are decisive. They are typically very confident. They're results oriented and they're natural leaders. However, weaknesses include that they can come across blunt or intimidating. They can be very impatient people and they may overlook probably often, details, or sometimes other people's feelings. Typically, these are salon owners or business owners in general, the leaders, the managers, the entrepreneurs, the top sales leaders tend to be high Ds. Um, think of this as a real world example. If a stylist who wants to level up fast and hit big numbers, they probably are a D. If the leader who says, "What's the goal? Let's go," they're probably a high D. And the team member who gets frustrated with slow decision making might be a D. So, what happens when you get a bunch of D's in the same room? You're gonna find out who feels like they have the biggest one. Oh, I should not be a comedian. That wasn't funny, but you may catch on. Like, let me just say this: if you're in a room with a bunch of people like you, somebody's gonna be the most dominant version of whatever the disc is. Somebody's gonna take charge. Somebody's gonna be the ultra alpha D in the room. Okay, so leadership tip: be clear, concise, and results focused. Don't waste time. Get to the point. So when you're working with the D, you got to get to it and they'll appreciate that. Okay, eyes. The influencer. Eyes are magnetic. They're inspirers. They are energetic, talkative, expressive, story driven. They thrive on interaction and recognition. This is their strengths. They're very charismatic people. They are great with clients. They're motivational. They have such positive energy. What are some of the weaknesses of high eyes? They can lack follow through. They can be disorganized and easily distracted. My team listening is probably like, "Oh, girl, you think you would D, but I think you're an I." Typical roles that an I plays are stylists. Stylists oftentimes can be an I. I'll get to the other big disc profile that often are stylists, but you might see this people behind the chair. They're into people and they're into themselves and not necessarily in a bad way. You could see this in front desk team members, anybody that wants to provide an experience for others. So, entertainers of any and all kinds are high eyes. They could also play a role in marketing and social media. So, the stylist with a full book, because clients love them, are probably high eyes. The team member who brings that energy and culture to the team, probably in high eye. The one who says, "Oh my gosh, let me tell you what happened," that is probably a high eye. So, a leadership tip when working with high eyes is to give recognition, praise, and engagement. Give them the engagement they so desire. They thrive on recognition, praise, engagement. Make it fun, not rigid. Eyes want to have an experience, no matter what it is. Can we make this an experience? Now we go on to the S's. Now this truly is majority of our industry because if you haven't noticed, a lot of stylists, if they're not an S, or if they are an S, if they're not a stylist, they often might be in the medical world, like a nurse or taking care of others in some way, serving people. So S's are steady and they are supporters. How do they communicate? Well, they're calm, they're patient, they're thoughtful. They prefer one on one conversations. They avoid conflict big time. They want steadiness. Strengths include that they are very loyal, they're reliable, they are great team players, they're consistent performers. However, some of their weaknesses, they're resistant to change. Change is very challenging for high S's. They avoid difficult conversations and they can be overly accommodating. Long-term stylists, most are high S's. Other roles that a high S would play, of course, is assistants because they want to be there to support you. They could be guest services, handle bookings and phone calls, client care roles of any kind, team culture anchors. They are there to support you. You might see this even in your social media team member. So they can be very creative, but they want to help shine a light on others, maybe not themselves. So the stylist who has been with you for years and clients trust deeply, probably a high S. That quiet team member who keeps everything running smoothly, high S. The one who says, I'm good, whatever you need, probably a high S. Oh my gosh, I can think of the people on the team just like this. So here's a leadership. When you're working with a high S, provide security, reassurance, and time for adjustments. There's a change, we got to give time. Whereas high D's, high I's. So D's and I's are on the fast track. So even though one prefers tasks over people, both D and I, they want to move fast. Let's go, let's go, let's go. S's and C's move at a methodical pace. This is why when I read through this, I actually slowed down. I don't know if you noticed that. I slowed down. S's move at a more methodical pace. So when there is change, allow time for the change. Give reassurance, offer and provide security. And if possible, don't force sudden change. Seize the conscientious people in our lives. These are the analyzers. If you're a DI, working with C's can be your biggest nightmare, but you need them in your life or you're going because you need people around you to pick up the pieces. They're going to pick up the pieces of your life and hold that together. They're the glue that hold the vision together. So, how do they communicate? They are precise, logical, and detail oriented. They ask questions because they want to get it right. They pride themselves on accuracy. They prefer written communication or just clarity in general. They want to clarify it all. If it's documented, they can go back and see the facts. Oh gosh, I love them though. I really do. Strengths, high standards. Your C's have very high standards. They are analytical, process driven, logical people. Weaknesses, they can overthink. Sometimes they overthink things for too long, or it feels like that to people who aren't like them. They are perfectionists, sometimes to an extreme. They are slow to make decisions. That is a challenge. Could you imagine putting a D and a C in the same room? Who's going to get their way? Well, it depends. Do you want this to be done or do you want this to be done right? The C would say. Typical roles is inventory management, which literally sounds like a nightmare horror film to me. I'm playing, but honestly, people who love to manage the inventory and the details of it all, you might be a high C. Operations and administrative roles, financial tracking, measuring, numbers, data. And they love any role with systems and process development. You all know who those people are in your life. And again, we love them. We need them. Some real examples within the salon or spa is the team member who asks, can you show me the exact process? It may not be very many people that would ask that in our type of world, but the ones who do are probably a high C. And the one who notices every small mistake. Also a challenge. Are you thinking like I married somebody like this? I sure did. So their whole job, I mean, my husband's former role was literally defined to show why something wouldn't work. Like that was his whole role in engineering. Why won't this work? His job was to find the faults so that they could preemptively fix them. It's an interesting thing. And by the way, it's good that some people are good at this. You don't want to take a rocket to the moon or a spaceship or whatever you call it and not have that be perfectly thought through to down to the millisecond or whatever detail matters most in that scenario. Of course, they're going to be the most detail oriented people in your life. It's going to be somebody who notices the mistakes, but also the person who thrives on systems, checklists, and structure. The leadership tip when you are working with somebody who's a high C, give clear expectations, clear data, and structure. And avoid being vague. Wow. It is work to be in relationships with people who are not like you. In fact, this is why I think they say marriage takes work, because if you are married to somebody or your significant other is an opposite personality style as yourself, it is literally work to love them their way or to meet them where they're at. And that's a good thing, because it's selfish to expect people to bend to your personality style, but you would not do the same. So we are called to recognize the unique way that each individual is made and celebrate that and meet them where they're at. So we really, as leaders, need to stop leading everybody our way or the same way, but leading them their way. How will they thrive? So start asking yourself, which personality style am I speaking with? Because if you know their disc, you're going to know the heartbeat at which they thrive, and adapting your communication style to meet theirs. Even though it takes a lot more patience for me to slow down and write out, like I'll say things fast and process it out loud very quickly, but then go back. And sometimes you don't have to be the one to do this. You could say, okay, tell me the steps that we just spoke through. Like, what would be number one? What would be number two? What would be number three? And they'll love to like recap and spell it out perfectly and completely, and be patient with that. And then it's going to be great. And you have it all written out. They came up with the answer. And then if something was not on the same page, you're going to identify it, clarify it, and move forward. I think it would be fun if maybe your next team meeting, you figured out what is everybody's disc personality profile. Um, there are many free little disc surveys out in the world that you can go and take. And it would just be fun to identify that for each team member. And how cool would it be the next time you go to hire if you felt like, gosh, I really need to hire somebody who's going to tighten up operations and make sure we are following procedures perfectly because we're dropping the ball in this area or whatever. Well, now I know that I need somebody who may be a combination of a C and an S. And that is usually how things are combined. You'll have an IS, maybe a CS, an SC. A D is kind of not an anomaly, but Ds are a little more on the rare side. I think I read, and this may have changed, but about 10% of the population are high Ds. Ds tend to be the least likely. The top, like dominant. Usually people are IS, IC, and any therefore combination. But DIs or DCs, those are going to be your rarest. High Ds are the rarest, 10% of the population. So identifying your team. Where are people at? Are they, and usually you're going to have your top two. So you're going to understand their communication style and speed. Are they people first or task first? Those are really the most important things to discover about other people. And then you can kind of meet them where they're at, adjusting the way you communicate and your speed or your flow or those expectations on how you go about your work and your projects together. And isn't this fun? I mean, at the end of the day, you want to be understood. And when you seek to understand others, they will be more open to understanding you. So, understanding people, you unlock their potential, and that's part of building a thriving salon or spa business. So, yay, we made it through the DISC personality profile. If you love today's conversation, please take a moment, leave us a 5-star review wherever you're listening so that more people like yourself will discover Beyond the Technique, where we're here to change the way that you are supported in your business. Until next time, have an awesome day and stay strong.
Did you know over 60% of first-time clients do not return for a second visit? That is so painful, but it doesn't have to be that way. That's where Maya comes in. Maya is the ultimate marketing software for the beauty and wellness industry. We have a proprietary funnel utilizing special algorithms to help connect the right consumers with the right providers at your business. This means that Maya helps you get higher spending clients you love to work with who stay the long haul. If you want to increase your revenue, increase your client count, increase your average ticket, and increase your new client retention, then you need Maya. Go to joinmaya.com to set up your own personal virtual tour and see why over 500,000 consumers have trusted Maya and the businesses we work with to find their perfect beauty and wellness pro. We promise you will love Maya.